If you're looking to start or grow a coaching business, this video is for you. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps that you can take to build a $100,000 plus per month coaching business and walk you through the exact strategies that I've personally used to build my own coaching business to over $350,000 per month. All right, let's dive in. First thing that you're going to need is to be an expert in something. Ultimately, if you are coaching others, it is critical that you have the skill set required to deliver great results. Now, that doesn't just mean that you need to know your subject matter. You also need to know how to teach that subject matter to others and enjoy doing it. If you don't, your coaching business will ultimately not grow to the level that it should. Now, if you have those pieces in place, you're ready to move on to the next step. One of the most important pieces of building a coaching business that can produce over $100,000 per month is understanding your offers and the different program types that can go into a coaching business. Ultimately, there are 4 different program types that we cover in my programs. The first one is the fully automated product or program. This is typically priced under $2,000 and is usually a one-time purchase. With that price point, you're going to be able to sell this program without a sales call the majority of the time. Because of that, that gives you the ability to really scale this specific offer on autopilot. However, most people believe that they need to start with this type of offer, and that's not what I recommend. The second program type is called the highly leveraged online program. This is a group coaching format. This can be priced anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 on average. This is a highly leveraged program because you can enroll as many people as you want without it significantly impacting the amount of time you spend on fulfillment. This is the offer that I recommend most people start with first. It's going to give you the financial flexibility to scale your advertising. It's also going to allow you to make a bigger impact. If you are selling a fully automated course, there is not going to be that coaching component included. The problem is a lot of people are not going to go through that content on their own, or they won't do it quickly. Even if they do not implement what that program is talking to them about, they're not going to see massive results. When you're able to tie your pre-recorded content with the live group coaching element, you're going to help people reach higher levels of success, and that is going to create testimonials, referrals, case studies, and give you the ability to use those things in your marketing to make it easier to sell moving forward. Now, even if you don't have testimonials, case studies, etc., you can still launch this program and grow this program for a while, but ultimately you are going to want those things at some point if you want to make selling this program as easy as you can. Now, the third program type is the higher tier, and this is more of a mastermind level program. The price point is going to be higher, could be anywhere between $15,000 per year all the way up to $100,000 per year in some cases. This is going to be a smaller group than what you'll see in the highly leveraged online group coaching program model. There also needs to be a higher level of support. Typically, you're going to include in-person events or training opportunities with this type of offer. That's not necessary 100% of the time, but if people are paying this price point, they're definitely going to expect something more. Now, program type number 4 is what we call private client. This is one-on-one coaching. This is also something that I see a lot of new or smaller coaches focusing on first. They believe that they need to do that one-on-one coaching in order to charge the price points that they're looking for. But the problem quickly arises that their calendar is full of one-on-one clients, giving them very little room and time to be able to work on the growth of their business. There's a natural cap in terms of how many one-on-one clients you can take on, limited by your time every week. While this is a great offer to incorporate in your business, this is not what I would build your coaching business around. This should be the highest price point, getting direct access to you one-on-one every week, This is not something you have to add on right away, nor is that mastermind level program. Ultimately, if you can do this the right way by starting with that group coaching model, you're naturally going to attract people who will be a good fit for that mastermind or one-on-one coaching offer, and you can ascend them. Even if you don't start it right away, you're building a marketing system and a pool of potential customers who could be a great fit for that moving forward. Now that we've discussed the offers and you know that focusing on launching a group coaching program should be your primary objective if you want to get to $100,000 or more per month, we need to talk about how you're actually going to build that program, what that program actually consists of. Ultimately, this is going to be based on the type of coaching that you're doing or that you want to do. But there are some similarities regardless. Now, the ideal scenario for your online leveraged program is that this is an evergreen model, meaning that people can enroll any day, any week, any month of the year. Ultimately, you don't want to have to do a live launch every single time you want to sell your program. As your business grows and you need to bring on closers or a sales team to help you sell, they're going to want consistent leads all the time. Doing a start-stop model really limits the ability to get those consistent calls booked long-term. If the next program doesn't start for several months, there's not going to be that natural sense of urgency, allowing someone to easily close. Within your online coaching program, you want to have a curriculum. Now, your curriculum is again going to be dependent on who it is you're serving and what you're helping them with. I recommend having anywhere between 5 and 8 weeks of content. These weeks don't necessarily mean that somebody has to wait 1 week before they move to the next piece, but we want to give people a structure to follow. They understand the goals of the program and they can work through those modules in the early stages of that program to be able to implement the initial pieces that they need to implement in order to see results. If that's the case, you need to stop and think about what is the transformation that I'm providing or that I want to provide to the people that I'm going to coach. We need a point A to point Z in order to not just effectively market, but also create those different weeks of curriculum to help someone get from that starting point to that destination. Now, ultimately, just because you have 5 to 8 weeks of curriculum does not mean that this is a 5 to 8 week program. I recommend a 12-month model. Now, when I first started my coaching business, I first launched a 9-week start-stop group coaching program. Our transformation was we were going to take you from very little online assets and allow you to create an offer, develop a funnel, and launch your ads by the time the program was complete. That first program for me was a huge success. However, I saw quickly that 9 weeks was not enough. The next round, I extended this to 12 weeks. And so we did that 12-week model for several rounds. Ultimately, once I shifted into the 12-month model, I was able to improve the results of the people going through my coaching program because they had more access to me and to the help and support they needed. If you're doing anything that does not have an instant payoff, something like paid advertising, marketing, business growth, this is not something where you're going to be able to see the final outcome within a 12-week period. A lot of times, launching your ads is just the beginning. It is certainly not the end. So being able to work with people through the testing and the optimization of their ads, launching new offers, optimizing their backend and sales processes, I was able to really help them succeed in a much bigger way. Now that we've talked about your curriculum, what does your actual coaching call look like? First of all, this is not a therapy session. This is a coaching call. If people are going through that course content, those 5 to 8 weeks of curriculum, they're going to be able to start to implement the process on their own. These calls should really be question and answer. What that means is you may do some coaching on those early calls where you're actually teaching the concepts that ultimately will be in your 5 to 8 weeks of curriculum. When I first started, as I mentioned, we did that 9-week and 12-week program, and my structure was 3 calls per week. On Monday, we had a coaching call explaining what we were trying to accomplish that week. The Wednesday call was all about implementation, how to implement that concept, the things that they needed to know or do, and show them what the setup actually looked like. And then our Friday call was question and answer. After the Monday and Wednesday calls, people were certainly going to have questions related to how they implement this in their own business. That structure worked really well. I continued to have 3 calls a week for a while, even after I extended this into a 12-month program. But pretty quickly, I was able to identify that we did not need 3 calls per week in that program any longer because I had a very extensive set of content that was already recorded, as well as a ton of resources, templates, frameworks to help them implement. So we dropped that down to 2 calls per week, and that was strictly question and answer. That is ultimately the goal that you're trying to get to. There's also going to be a community component of this group coaching program, which can be huge. This is not something that you get with one-on-one coaching. With group coaching, people are going through this process together and being able to support each other, answer each other's questions, celebrate each other's wins, and sometimes just vent with the things that they're dealing with can be really valuable for them. I've had so many students in my program form very strong friendships, connections, partnerships, relationships with one another because of the community. You are going to need to determine where you want your community to be hosted. Facebook groups are a free, easy way to do this, and there are benefits of using a Facebook group because a lot of people are going to be logging into Facebook anyway. School is another option, although there are some downsides of using School for your community. Circle.so is another option as well. I'll make sure that the links to those are in the description if you guys want to check them out. Now that we know how our coaching program needs to be structured, the question is, how are you going to reach that $100,000 per month mark? Ultimately, I recommend using paid advertising. Paid advertising has been the single most important thing that has allowed me to get to over $350,000 per month in my own coaching business. In order to enroll that many people into your programs, you are going to need a lot of people to see your offer. If you are really strong in organic social marketing, you may not need paid ads, but you might have to shift the way that you are doing your content in order to make it more lead conversion and lead generation focused. This is something that I see with a lot of people who really specialize in organic. They may have a great audience, but they don't necessarily know how to monetize it. Now, if you do not have much of a social presence, don't worry. You don't need one to be successful with paid advertising. But what you do need is to understand the money math. The money math is essentially the math problem that we are going to use to grow our business. In our programs, we use something called a reverse engineering spreadsheet. This spreadsheet allows you to identify how many sales are you looking to make per day or per week, the price point of your specific program, and the metrics related to your ads and your sales process. Based on the numbers that we input, it's going to give us the exact amount of money per day that we need to spend to achieve those goals. As those numbers shift, make sure that you update those so you get a clear picture of what the financial investment needs to look like. The reason that most businesses fail, even small brick and mortar businesses, is because they do not have enough customers. If you can solve your customer acquisition problem, the rest of the business can work itself out. Now, what we need to do to sell these is ultimately get someone on a call or strategy session. The name of that strategy session is something that you want to determine based on what you're actually discussing with them on that call. But you need to know what is the target cost per strategy session. Then you need to know what your close rate is from strategy session into someone who is enrolling. If you can keep those 2 things in mind and you've got a good handle on what costs you currently have and what costs are within your KPI, you're going to be able to spend confidently. Ultimately, the goal of paid advertising is to buy customers. How much does it cost me to buy a customer? Now, if my group coaching program is $10,000, I can spend a pretty decent amount to buy a customer. When you can get in that mentality and you can say, I know what my profit margins are, and with an online coaching business in particular, our margins are pretty solid, you're going to be able to spend what is required for you to buy as many customers as your business wants. This does depend on you being able to effectively run paid ads. I have taught people who have extremely limited tech experience how to set up all of their online assets, launch their campaigns, and get great results. So if they can do it, anyone can. I don't recommend that you necessarily outsource this to an agency from the beginning. If you do not have a clear handle on these metrics, number one, if your offer is good and what things have been most successful in ads in the past, it's going to be a challenge to hand that over to someone else. And even if you do, and they do a good job of running ads, if you cannot close those sales in the right percentages, you are not going to make the return on investment that you need to. And even worse, you could lose a lot of money in the process. Keeping a very close eye on your marketing and sales is so important. Ultimately, no one cares as much about your business as you do. You need to be willing to take this seriously, understand what is required for success before you delegate or outsource that to someone else. In my programs, we use something called the offer validation ads process. This process allows you to quickly and easily validate that your offer is actually something that people want. Because it is such a fast and easy process, we do not need to worry if our funnel's converting, if our landing page is good enough, if our copy on the landing page is strong enough, or any of those technical components. We want to make the offer the star of the ad. We're going to see very quickly if people are interested in this offer. If they're not, stay focused on optimizing that offer before you dive into the next phase of the process. So get really clear on what those offer details are. Start to run ads for that direct offer to make sure it is strong enough to stand on its own. If you've passed that phase, you're going to be able to move into some more advanced, more complex, and ultimately more effective forms of advertising moving forward. Now that we understand how we're going to sell our program, the question is, do you need to spend a lot of time building out the entire thing first? The answer is absolutely not. When I first started my coaching program, Local Marketing Mastery, I did not have any pre-recorded content. What I did have was an extreme amount of knowledge on my subject matter. I also had templates and resources developed through my years in the industry, working with local businesses, small business owners, and agencies. So I had a lot of the pieces that I need, but I did not have any course that I was going to be able to offer to students as soon as they enrolled. And that's why, like I shared, we had that 3-call per week structure. Once you treat those calls as if they are going to be your pre-recorded content, by the end of your first round, or the end of that 5 to 8, even 12-week initial period, you're going to have recorded content that you can put into a learning management system so that people moving forward will get access to that content right away. Selling before you build is critical, just for the same reasons that the offer validation ads process is critical. You do not want to spend a lot of time, money, energy, or effort building something before you know if it's what people want. Even if a few things change, those few things could play a huge role in how you're structuring that content. Selling before you build is always the ideal scenario. There are several different launch strategies that you can use to sell this program before it's built out. We have several of those strategies listed in our programs with different resources available to launch quickly and efficiently. Ultimately, it comes down to what is the best fit for the individual, their audience, and the type of coaching they're going to be doing. I have several of my mastermind members who use webinar strategies for their programs. We also love 5-day challenge strategies. The 5-day challenge strategy and webinars were 2 critical components of me starting and growing my coaching program in the first several years. This is how I generated leads, built my email list, got calls scheduled, was able to demonstrate the knowledge and the expertise that I had so that people got a feel for my coaching style, knew I could help them, and they were ready for more. So those are 2 awesome strategies to consider. But we also use strategies such as the phone funnel framework or going direct with the offer. If you have an existing audience or email list, we also use something called the Quick Clients campaign to generate those first coaching students. All we need to do is enroll our first few people to know that this offer is something that people are interested in. Then we're going to work on filling that beta group. Having a beta group is critical if you're just starting your program, because we know that no matter what we do, we are not going to end with our first version. We are going to make so many tweaks and changes over time to make sure that the content, the way the content is being delivered, the resources available are the exact things that people really need to find true success. For that beta group, giving them incentive-based pricing is a great sales strategy. Telling people this is the beta group. No one has gone through this before. Because of that, our price point is going to be lower than it ever will be. But what I do need from you is feedback on the program after you've gone through it, and ideally during the program, and a video testimonial. So if you do this the right way, you're going to be able to take the feedback from the members, tailor that to help them get the best results, and then end up with your first several testimonials or case studies, making it easier to sell next time. Ultimately, we want to create that minimum viable product, something that will allow us to sell it without spending too much of our time, energy, and effort. And we want to make sure we're able to sell that effectively. If your offer is converting at less than 10%, that's a really good sign that something about that offer needs to change. It might be the audience that you're going to. It might be the exact deliverables or that transformation that you've detailed. But if you are not converting at least 10% or more of your sales calls into new students, then we need to stop and address that before anything else is done. If you've gotten to this point, now it's time to actually start putting together the content for your portal or for those live calls so that you can actually run this coaching program effectively. We use Google Slides for all of our slide presentations, and slide presentations are definitely a great way to structure your content so that people can go through those in a step-by-step format. I also recommend having different resources or guides. When I first started, we just used Google Docs for everything. Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets, that was it. And it was really powerful stuff that was inside. So it did not matter what the format or what program was used to create these. Keep it simple and let the content and information be the star of the show. Ultimately, now we use different SOP automation programs, and we use Notion to house a ton of our resources and assets to make it easier for students to find what they need, follow step-by-step guides, load in the appropriate templates or frameworks, and be able to move forward a lot more effectively. You are going to need a learning management system. When I first started, I was using LearnDash through my WordPress website. I have also used several other learning management systems such as Kajabi. I've also used ClickFunnels, and ultimately, I now use HighLevel for my courses because I use everything that HighLevel has to offer. This single program allows me to run and automate at least 90% of my business. HighLevel is absolutely amazing. If you want to try it for free for 30 days, I'll drop a link in the description so that you can check it out, and definitely ask any questions that you have. I've also got a playlist full of videos teaching you how to set up, optimize, and really leverage HighLevel to grow your online business or even your bricks and mortar business. So this is not just for agencies and coaches. This literally can be for virtually any type of business. But at the end of the day, you need to choose a learning management system that works for you. So decide on what that's going to be and go ahead and move forward. You will want to keep in mind the administrative support side of this. One of the reasons why I love having my courses in HighLevel is because this is where all of our contacts already are. This is where all of our email marketing and text message marketing is already done. This is where our social media scheduling happens. This is where our support in our sales process happens. So because of that, it is very easy to help people if they're unable to access their account for any reason, if they need their password reset, if there's a billing issue. Removing the third-party programs and platforms that are not necessary is going to make your life and the life of your team so much easier. So really think about this before you decide to move forward on any specific learning management system. You're also going to want to organize your files as quickly as possible. I recommend having that curriculum outlined and then creating a Google Drive folder for each week of that curriculum, adding your slide deck in there and adding any resources, links, support documents that you're going to need for that specific week. So that makes it very easy to find, very easy to continue to build on, and you don't need to spend a lot of money setting this up. Now, when it comes to actually producing and recording your content, there are so many different platforms that you can use. When I first started, I was using something called Screencast-O-Matic. This was $17 for a year, which was really attractive to me at the time, and it did the job that it needed to do. I did have some issues where I'd record a 30-minute to an hour video and then realize after the fact that the audio was not there. That was probably the most frustrating piece of using that software. But even though it did happen several times as I was recording all of my content, ultimately, it gave me what I needed to move forward. Now, I use Ecamm Live. I also have Descript, which I strongly recommend. You can use things like Camtasia. You can use ScreenFlow. So those are some of the recording platforms that I recommend. Ultimately, Descript is amazing because you can record directly in the program. It's going to auto-transcribe everything that you say in that video automatically, allow you to edit the video based on the transcript, which is super cool. And then you can also take that transcript and you can utilize that to create your step-by-step guides that go along with that video. You could also just use Zoom if you want to. Zoom is not necessarily the highest video recording quality, but if you already have a Zoom account and you need to get this done right away, that's definitely an option. Once your files are recorded, you're going to need to get those edited, sometimes not very much if you do this the right way or you use something like Descript. And then you're going to need to export those and upload those into your learning management system. So now that we've got the structure of our program, we've got the curriculum and the transformation, we understand how much it's going to cost to acquire new customers. We've started our marketing efforts, such as paid advertising or very specific organic marketing efforts, even potentially direct outreach, depending on the number of contacts that you already have within the industry that you're trying to focus on. You need to really close more sales to get to that $100,000 per month mark. Closing more sales is easier for some people than it is for others. So I really enjoy sales. I have always been pretty good at sales, and it started with my very first big girl job. I was selling magazine advertising. This was the first time I'd ever sold anything, and honestly, up until that point, I thought I wanted absolutely nothing to do with sales. But when I saw the commissions, I was 21 years old. I was like, that sounds pretty good. I had definitely a lot more money than I'm currently making, so I was interested in giving it a try. I was doing cold calling. And if you start off doing something like door knocking or cold calling, and you can actually make it work, sales moving forward is not going to be that challenging for you. So if you're in that position and you enjoy sales or you're good at sales, you need to lock down and master your sales processes. So we use a really effective sales call framework that all of my students are able to access and customize. And this is designed for programs specifically like this, or agency services, or that one-on-one coaching or mastermind style offer. Getting that script perfectly tailored and being able to deliver it really effectively is so critical. You're also really going to have to understand how to handle objections. The more sales calls you get, the more objections you're going to hear over time. And the better you can address those objections, the easier it's going to be to convert those prospects into sales. It's also critical at this stage to really focus on email marketing. If you are generating a good number of leads, and that is what we need to do in order to scale this business, you need to know that not everyone is going to convert right away. I have had people on my list that opted in 3 years ago that finally convert. This is not something that would have been possible if it weren't for email marketing. This is my direct line of communication. This is something that allows me to develop a lot of a closer relationship with the people who are interested in those things because I share a lot about my personal life. I also give a lot of great content, tips, strategies, resources through my email list as well. So you're able to develop a stronger sense of know and trust, which is ultimately going to make it easier to close. And sometimes the timing is just not right for someone. So if you can keep that in mind and you say, I'm going to focus on maximizing the value of every single lead that is generated, and you go hard on email marketing and you use the right email marketing strategy, you're going to be able to build a rock solid pipeline that will continue month after month and year after year. This was really one of the biggest misconceptions that I had when I first started my coaching business, because at the time, I was a full service, done for you agency. That's where the majority of my revenue was coming from. That's where 100% of my revenue was coming from before I launched the first coaching program. And I did not believe that my coaching program could ever fully replace or outgrow my agency services. And I was so wrong. I had this idea in my head that there's no way I'm going to be able to enroll 20 or 30 new coaching students every single month. And that ultimately was incorrect as well. Being able to do that simply means you have enough leads coming in to get enough bookings on your calendar or the calendar of your sales team to be able to close at a minimum of 20%. And then it really just becomes a math problem in terms of how to grow your business. So if you are not someone who enjoys sales, I still recommend that you start doing sales first. A lot of people have to do sales first. They don't have enough leads for a good salesperson to want to close for them. This is something that you are going to have to learn if you want to really scale your coaching business. Now, if you do that, the goal is certainly to hire a closer as soon as you possibly can. We do need to hire some help to be able to scale this business to $100,000 per month or more. But the question is, who do you need to hire and when do you need to hire them? And as you can guess, one of the first hires that I recommend is a closer. Now, if you do not have a virtual assistant, that is actually the very first thing that you want to do. This is something that is going to save you so much time. It's going to get a lot of these technical pieces off your plate, as well as administrative pieces that you either don't want to do or you don't have time to do. Virtual assistant is definitely step one if you do not already have them. If you don't know where to find a good virtual assistant, I'm also going to drop a link in the description where we find, train, and place virtual assistants into your specific business. You're able to have them work on whatever you need, but they're going to be able to save you a tremendous amount of time and sometimes do things a lot better than you might be able to do them, depending on your level of technical expertise. Now, if we've got that sales closer is going to be the next hire. But as I mentioned, in order for you to attract a good salesperson, you are going to have enough leads and enough appointments for them to feel like there is opportunity to make money working with your business. It's one of those questions, which is what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You need to bring on a salesperson, but you need all these leads and appointments before you can hire the salesperson. Maybe you don't have enough time to reach out and close all those sales appointments, but you need to have that in place before you move forward. If you do not wait until you are confident that you have the right ads or marketing to bring in a number of leads that will generate the number of appointments you're looking for, you will not keep that salesperson for very long. And then you're just going to have wasted any money that you may have spent through that hiring process, but definitely the time that it takes to hire, onboard. So this might be something that happens over a couple of months. Now, I have really tried all the things when it comes to hiring salespeople. My first salesperson, I hired a recruiting company. They were supposed to give me 4 closers that were going to take calls for a couple of weeks, and we were going to see who was the best performer. They told me that I needed at least 10 appointments per week per closer for us to really be able to see who is that number one pick. So that meant I needed 40 appointments per week in order for this to work. I already knew that I had ads that were working well, so I cranked up my ads, started generating all of the appointments that we needed, and then none of the salespeople ever took a single call. It was a nightmare. I had this company telling me, okay, they'll be ready to start next week. They'll be ready to start next week. So I didn't turn down my spend because I knew that I needed around 40 appointments per week for this to actually work effectively. I personally took 40 calls per week while running my agency and my coaching business. And at that point, as you can imagine, I was completely burned out. I was furious that I had spent $10,000 only to have some of the worst 3 months of my life in terms of my stress level. And it was a complete failure. I was able to get a refund back from the company, thankfully, but that really didn't change that I had 90 days of hell trying to take all of these calls. Now, yes, I made some great money, but I learned that is something I can never let happen again. After that, I really focused on hiring internally. I would use my list. I would use my audience. I reached out to people that I knew in my personal life that I thought would be great at sales and was able to bring on the right types of people, get them trained, and get them working effectively to close sales every single week. But because I had gone through the sales process for the years prior to even trying to hire a salesperson, and I really saw firsthand what it was going to look like for any lead or appointment to come on that call with the closer, I was able to really dial in my sales processes significantly so that when I brought that next closer on, they had a proven process to follow. They knew what to expect, and I knew what to expect from them. I knew the lead quality. I knew the objections. I knew the type of questions they were going to be asked. And so I was able to better support them moving forward. Now, I've also made a ton of mistakes hiring different salespeople over the years, but ultimately I'm at a point where I have an amazing sales team. We've got 3 closers and a sales manager. And then we also have a team of appointment setters. Now, appointment setters may be the next thing that you want to bring on. If you are spending money on paid advertising, every single lead that you generate needs to be fully maximized. We want to incorporate self-scheduling into that process. However, you will never get as many scheduled appointments as you could if you are not doing outbound phone follow-up. This is one of the biggest mistakes that most people make when it comes to running paid ads, is they believe they can just generate leads, never communicate with them, and that magically they're going to get the most incredible ROI. And while you can get a really strong ROI without outbound follow-up, when you add this piece in, you're going to be able to keep your closers full. You're going to be able to maximize that ad spend that you are spending, and you're going to be able to close more sales. So having someone, whether it's somebody internal in your company or a virtual assistant you try and train to do appointment setting, or a company that you hire for this, this is a critical piece of scaling to the next level and keeping your profit margins as high as possible. Because let's say you're spending eventually $50,000 per month on advertising. That's not a lot. If you're doing $350,000, $400,000 per month, your advertising is your single biggest marketing expense. If you are not using appointment setters, that $50,000 is not going to go as far as it could. So you're not going to be able to grow as quickly as you want. This is going to take whatever it is you're spending and make it so much more valuable so that you don't have to spend as much to be able to close more sales. You also might consider hiring an executive assistant or a product manager. A product manager can handle the pre-recorded video content, the resources, upload the calls, manage the community, let new students in the group, field questions from the group, anything related to the actual program itself. Not everybody is going to need all of those pieces. You certainly are going to want a virtual assistant, definitely going to want a closer. Eventually, you really need to have an appointment setting solution, but having that executive assistant or product manager is just going to save you more time, and you're going to be able to focus on delivering the coaching services in the most effective way possible without spending more time than you want to. One of the most beautiful things about this business model is the freedom and flexibility that it provides. If you can keep that in mind and you focus on bringing people on that are going to save you time, you will truly be able to create an extremely profitable lifestyle business that can help you achieve the life that you really want to live. So that is the process that you need to go through to start or grow a coaching business that will achieve over $100,000 per month consistently. If you guys have any questions, definitely drop those in the comments. If you found this video helpful, let me know by hitting that like button and subscribe so you never miss anything new. And if you want to see how I can help you start or grow your coaching program, agency, or business in general, then I would love to chat. There's going to be a link in the description where you can schedule a call with my team, and we'll see what the best option is for you moving forward. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one.